Looks like we are recording. Hello, my name is Andy Cogley. I'm Technical Evangelist at Tableau and one of the people who is responsible for the Tableau Zen Master program. Thank you all for joining us today. I have two very special guests with me today. We are going to talk about what the Zen Master program is, briefly, some of the changes that are happening in the application process this year, and our goal really is to demystify the application process. We want to talk about some of the challenges we know people face in applying or thinking about applying, and we really at Tableau are seeking to encourage more diversity in the program year on year. I have two very special guests who know a great deal about this. We've got Brigitte Cogley. She describes herself as a data ethicist, an artist and an innovator, and a senior consultant at Technion. Bridget's been a Tableau Zen Master since 2016. She writes an amazing blog at tableaufit.com. And what I love about Bridget is her thoughtful pieces on effective communication of data through design or annotations or all sorts of different manners. Now, she goes beyond the technology to the human side of data communications, and she's been a great asset to the program since 2016. My other guest is Jonathan Drummey, a legend amongst the Tableau community. Jonathan's LinkedIn profile is very humble. He just says he's a data visualization specialist at Path. But he's been a Zen Master since the program was created in 2012. He's also an inaugural member of the Tableau Zen Master Hall of Fame, which essentially means he's been a Zen Master for over 5 years. He has earned his spot in that Hall of Fame. Jonathan and I were both some of the first contributors to the Tableau Forum over 10 years ago, I think it was. And really,
it was over 8 for me.
Is it 8? And, you know, he's a data visualization specialist, but really Jonathan has helped countless thousands of people with tips and ideas. So welcome to both of you. Thanks for joining today. Now, while you're watching this live stream, please feel free to ask questions. We'd love to address them as we go through the event. Nominations are open until the 15th of January. So you still have 6 days to nominate your friends, your colleagues, your people who've inspired you. And then there's a few more changes I'll explain about in a minute. But welcome to the both of you. First of all, why don't we just set some background and define what is the Zen Master program? Jonathan, welcome to the live stream. Do you want to give us a brief overview of what a Zen Master is?
All right, thanks, Andy. So for me, the Tableau is really about community, and we have this amazing data visualization tool, and with Tableau being a mission-driven organization of help people see and understand data in those first 2 words of helping people, Tableau is really serious about that, and the Zen program is about honoring and acknowledging those users who are really helping other users and embodying the community values. So there's 3 core values in the program that are talked about on the Tableau's really upfront about that on the Zen Master page, putting that in the chat link in case you haven't read it before. So there's master, teacher, and collaborator. So mastery is mastery of Tableau and the Tableau ecosystem. So demonstrating that there. So that might be doing amazing vizzes on Tableau Public or helping users on the Tableau forums, supporting user groups, writing blog posts that are helping users or certain subsets of populations of users of Tableau do better, be better, do amazing things. So there's a huge range of what that can look like, and the variety, if you look at the backgrounds of the existing Tableau Zen Masters in ways they contribute, kind of demonstrates that. And then the second place is teacher. So this is about teaching other people. So it's not just doing amazing work yourself, but showing other people how they can do that for themselves and building that up. And that gets to the third point, which is collaboration. And I think of that sort of in the grade school grading process where we had a plays well with others grade in that sense. And that is Are you working well with other people in the community? Are you lifting other people in the community up and building that? And then also where boundaries need to be set as well, also doing that piece and helping this community do better at data visualization and be better people.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. The only I just re-emphasize, the Zen Masters and our Tableau ambassadors actually are the people setting the tone of how we want the community to operate. So that's an excellent point. The other thing I'd add is it's not just Tableau Desktop and Tableau Public. One of the amazing things of the evolution of Tableau ecosystem and our community is that it's now about developing extensions. It's about administering server. It's about all the aspects of creating a vibrant data culture within organizations or beyond. Tableau
Can
Public
I jump in with one example of that?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So this is, so Kelly Martin, who's, she just passed away this past year. She's in the Zen Master Hall of Fame. She does amazing work. Just brilliant work. But the piece for me that was like, this person is at another level of thinking was a blog post she wrote about first-time users and how to guide first-time users of Tableau server or Tableau online visualizations through that. And just thinking about this audience that I hadn't thought about before and reaching out to them in a way.
Yeah.
And there's so many niches to explore there that there's just huge opportunities to contribute.
Yeah, excellent. Love it. Right. Now, so that's the Zen Master program. We take applications every year because when you are a Zen Master, you are accepted onto the program as a recognition of the work you did in the previous year. So those Zen Masters who will be the 2020 Zen Masters are recognized for the work they did in 2019. And we've been running the program for many years, but we're changing the process a little bit this year. Right now, we're in the nomination process. Anybody can nominate anybody else. They can also nominate themselves. That's absolutely fine. The change we are making is that everybody who gets a nomination will then be asked to fill in a second form to explain to us, the selection committee, what it is they've done and the impact they have had. Right? So we are asking people after this nomination process to kind of sell themselves, right, and tell us why that they think they should be on the Zen Master program. Now, there's a really good reason for this change. This Zen Master program has grown from 4 people in 2012. There are over 30 this year. Who knows? We are growing into different regions. We are growing into different languages. We are a global community, and however much myself and the community team in Tableau try and keep abreast of things, we cannot see everything that is going on. So we are now relying on those who are nominated to help us understand their own contribution. 2 other things on that. First of all, we have no quotas, minimum or maximum number of Zen Masters we're going to take in the program, which, that's was an open secret. And I forgot what the other one was, right? But obviously it was not as important as that. We have no quota, but this new nomination process is different, right? And we accept, and we also realize, and thanks to Bridget for raising this to us in the first place, that this might be an intimidating new step in the process. So what we're trying to get to today is to chat with Jonathan and Bridget to really tease out why we need to make this step and how to demystify this process if you end up being nominated. So it's a goal of encouraging diversity. Bridget, do you want to say anything more about that?
Yes. So a part of what we're looking for, again, is encouraging diverse voices. This also, for me, means that if you know somebody who seems like they could be Zen, but you don't have a ton of information about them, get them on the radar. Just fill out the application, say, hey, this person runs my user group. They're running this initiative. They're running that initiative. I don't know everything that makes them a Zen Master, but I at least know this much, and that gives that person an opportunity to say, hey, I never would have thought about it. I never would have put myself out there, but thank you, and okay, I'll go ahead and fill out this application. The other piece of advice, because this is now an application where you're going to get that application, I would strongly encourage people, don't be like me. When I got my email that said, hey, you're a Zen Master, the first thing I replied back is, are you sure you got the right person? Andy Cotgrave can attest to this. And so particularly if you look at the Zens and you don't see yourself reflected, you're the exact person I definitely want to see you up and apply. Because again, this is a great way to inspire others.
Brilliant.
So if you don't see your hero, be your hero.
I love it. That's perfect. Jonathan, what do you think makes a successful Zen Master?
I have some different ideas in that. I think one of the first things is having an attitude of service and helping other users to do things. And part of that is being curious. What is going to make a difference for other people? And it might be learning things from yourself or from what other people are bringing to you. Being creative in that way as well. And if you're curious, creativity is going to come with that. Having some dash of brilliance is part of that, and doing that kind of work. And then the two other pieces are having humility about that. That one of the ways for me, like, people come to me and say, oh, you must know Tableau. And my first answer is, okay, I know some things about Tableau, and there's so much I don't know about Tableau. Just Tableau has 1,000 people in the development group. They are building software to rate faster than any human can take in. Just that, never mind all the different ways we do things and build all the different varieties of ways Tableau is used. So, so having that humility and willingness to learn. And then the final piece that I think is really key is a level of stubbornness of going back to the well and trying things again and again and in different ways, and just until it's sort of right. And that shows up in people who evolve their the vizzes they make and iterate on those, or Steve Wexler is one of my favorite examples for, he's written so many posts on how to evaluate survey data in Tableau, and then is like, and he changes his thinking over time because he's like, I want to get this right, and he learns more about what those possibilities are. So those are my quick points.
Stubbornness is almost like a euphemism for the voices in your head that you can't escape. It's like, you can still fix these things. You can still get better. I agree. Bridget, go ahead.
I kind of call that being a Lorax. So when you think about, it is, everyone laughs at me when I say this, and I've said this in multiple places, but you think about the Lorax speaks for the trees. Well, a data Lorax is going to speak for the data, it's going to speak for the visualization, and it's going to speak for others as well. And so that's kind of almost a part of how I see this role, is that you've got that Lorax person. You also think about the person that kind of packs the extra food along the way. So, I remember that, in high school even, I was always the person with the extra biscuits. It's like you just bring enough because there's going to be some crisis where somebody's going to need something else. But to me, Zen is also somebody that helps the group do better. So when you look at, like, Jonathan has helped me out with window calcs, just the things that he's mentioned with Kelly and how she's transformed how we look at dashboards. To me, Kelly Martin is the mother of the modern Tableau dashboard. And then two, the kindness, just being kind to one another is really, really important. You can push others forward without being cruel. And so that to me is kind of a Zen master.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, when we set up this program, I mean, it was Ellie Fields, myself, and Dustin Smith kind of brought it together back in 2011. I think one of the things I always stood by is humility, right? Bridget, your response to why have you made me a Zen Master is actually the kind of response I want from everybody we put on the Zen Master program, because even though this program has become something that can change careers and open new doors, what I don't want our community to be is people who are doing it for the box ticking reason to advance their career, right? You should, if you are passionate enough to help others because you are passionate, then that humility is what will get you onto the Zen Master program. So I think, and then I think we might talk about this a little bit later, but some of the examples of expertise, you touched on this, Bridget, a moment ago. You don't have to be like the most technically advanced person, right? I think, so two examples I just wrote down. Ken Flerlich, he is a mathematical genius who can do things that blow me away, right? I read his blog posts. I have no idea what they're really about. I can't follow the maths, but they're entertaining and I learn something and they're inspiring. So he's technically incredible. Somebody like Andy Kriebel, who is also in the Hall of Fame, I mean, he is obviously knows more about Tableau than many other people on the planet. But what he's done so consistently over 10 years is actually blog at quite a basic level. He's sharing basic tips, right, that help people who are quite new into Tableau. And I think that's really important to recognize that it's about humility, and your mastery doesn't have to manifest itself as, look how cool I am, right? We like being blown away by the technical things you can do, but we don't want to be blown away because we think you're just, showing off, right? So that's a successful Zen Master. We are in a nomination process, so this is what we want to really get into. As we said, there's 2 stages in the process this year. We are right now in the open nomination phase. After that, if you are nominated, you will be asked, do you want to be a Zen Master? And if so, please tell us why you should be a Zen Master. I know that makes people go, some people will go, so let's talk about getting over that deep breath. Bridget, you want to help people get over the issue?
I'll go ahead and address the elephant in the room a little bit, is that historically when you looked at the Zen Masters, it seemed to be one large, very kind of monolithic group. You kind of went, okay, they're all buddies, they, go out and have beers together. Like you could almost kind of imagine this story. And as it's grown, you've seen the people change. And so I kind of consider this your superhero roster, where when you look and you kind of figure out, okay, who do you want to be when you grow up in Tableau? That's honestly, when I saw Kelly Martin, that was the first time I saw myself reflected in a profession. And that mattered. And so that's kind of where it does seem to be going. We're not there yet. And so this webinar is a way to hopefully get there. So as you look through there, who are we missing? What superheroes do we not have on stage? The people that we're most looking for are the ones who are very vulnerable to imposter syndrome. They're more likely to look and say, I don't think I belong here. And as Andy has mentioned, that's exactly who we're looking for. So people are going to say, no. The other challenge is with these applications, it's very easy to say, okay, fine, I'm applying for the Zen Master thing. Sure, I wrote 10 blog posts. Whoop-de-doo. But no, they matter. And so what did those blog posts do? Are there any flagship blog posts that matter to you? Call them out. And so it may be, I wrote X blog post read by, X number of people, and that X number of people may not feel very impressive to you. But again, remember it's small. We are covering a wide swath of people. And then 2, and it's reflected in these examples. So, my flagship posts are, on this particular visualization I did, or I did this technique, or this was really impressive to me. To me, one of the best examples out there is Maria Brock, who's a student ambassador, wrote this post, and we'll put the link out there, just about a young woman's perspective on the community. It blew me away. She talked a little bit about what it's like to be a young woman, how she had a lot of female role models, which I didn't. I had one. And then she also talked about, where she went. There was tons and tons of women. Again, not been my experience. And then she talked about, an opposite experience where that's the world I'm more familiar of, kind of this bro culture. And that's where she doesn't want to go. And so, just that post was really, really insightful.
Yep. I think honestly, I can't. So Jonathan's just put the link to Maria's post in the chat window. So you should all see that. Honestly, it is a great post and just really worth your time. On Bridget's clarification, well, to add to when Bridget says I wrote X blog posts and they were read by Y amount of people. One of the things I have to do in my job, I'm an evangelist, right? My job is to go and make people enthusiastic about Tableau. And, we have struggled for years with my manager and my managers about how do you measure Andy's success? And don't tell anybody. It's great because I'm so hard to measure, right? I can say I'm always successful. But one thing we've realized is because, I can write 15 blog posts and I can get the audience figures. But actually some of the best feedback I can give to my manager, and we've worked on it over the years, is if I get emails or people say things to me or people tweet about something, that is valid feedback. So when somebody says, Andy, you wrote this post and it enabled me to do this, that is as powerful as saying that blog post was read by 300 people or 10,000
Yeah.
people, because that's a piece of evidence that somebody was influenced and impacted. And it's
I,
taken me years to be comfortable sharing that kind of feedback with my manager, because I'm like, well, that's all soft and squishy, but it's not soft and squishy. It's genuine evidence of impact. So, yeah.
When
Go ahead.
people tell me they laugh, that's a big one for me. When they've read through a post and they've laughed and learned, that to me is a high success mark. The other is I have found one deaf analyst in my life, which is huge. And so that made me excited. So just finding these connections that matter. And that's another part of this is the connections.
Yeah, and so they are valid things to put into your nomination and application process, right? That's evidence of impact. Jonathan, do you want to add in anything?
Yeah, one other piece is that there are, like on the Tableau forums, there's 150,000 people. Tableau announced there's 1 million Tableau users out there now. That's a huge number of people. And there's no way the people involved in the Tableau Zen Master selection process are necessarily going to know everything that's going on. So one plus side to me of this application process is that it's a way of you letting Tableau know the cool stuff you've been up to. And I'm from New England, where we've got this Puritan culture that says don't brag about what you did, and that can also show up as imposter syndrome. So it's hard to do that, and at the same time, it's a worthwhile thing to do that, to let Tableau know what you've done, because you may be reaching out to an audience that Tableau people doesn't know about. So for example, Tableau's based in Seattle, primarily white Americans doing that. And so fortunately, there's now some Japanese Tableau Zen Masters, for example. And Andy can't read Japanese and stuff like that. So letting people know about this is how I'm reaching out to this community is really key. And having this place around who you helped, who was able to do more from what you did, and also owning who you learned from as well, and sharing that up. And how did you take what somebody else did and remix that or build that up and make something better, and do more and share that out? I think is really key.
You just made me realize here's another trade secret. Right now, one of the things we will never do is fully explain our selection process. That there is no purely metric-driven process by which we choose the Zens. We look at data, but we look at, we have to look around the edges as well. So when we define mastery as one of the, what makes a Zen master different from an ambassador is one of the key things is mastery of some part of the Tableau ecosystem. Now, what we recognize is some markets or some regions are the average Tableau user in that region is much more skilled than places where Tableau is brand new. So when we say mastery, we kind of try and go, well, are you operating at a skill level that is higher than the average user in your region? Right now, this is important because, in the US, for example, the market is quite mature. So the most mastery or the most skilled Tableau users in the US are pretty skilled, right? But imagine Tableau going into a new region in Africa, right? We're barely present in Africa. That is changing. But the best person in Africa will be not as good, possibly even as the average American, right? And the reason I want to sort of expose that is because sometimes I've heard people in these newer regions are like, well, I'm not Jonathan Drummey, I'm not Bridget. It's like, well, no, you're not. But are you in a position where you've just learned how to do table calcs or something quite basic? It's like, well, if that's better than, if you're ahead of your community in that region, then that is displaying mastery. So there's a real intimidation factor in looking at, wow, the real masters in that country are just amazing. How do I even get there? It's like, well, we all started from a path.
And there's also cultural relevancy where, you know, some of the practices that we do here or some of the practices that I espouse just simply won't work elsewhere. And so that's why it's integral to find people within the communities that they represent.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I've noticed there's some questions on
Can I
the
add
chat.
one bit on that?
Yeah, I'll come on to the questions in a minute. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yep. Two quick things. One is a lot of my work is in Africa, and so if you're in public health in Africa and need mentoring, look me up. And I definitely want to support that in my work. And to Bridget's point, it's really, I've been working in doing data visualization work in Africa for full-time for 2 years now. And I have learned so much. There's so many local challenges and ways things are different. And so in that way, there's like writing the next amazing table calculation post that requires diving really deep into Tableau. You don't have to do that to be a Tableau Zen Master in Africa, for example. But talking about how you can create engagement when half the time people have bad internet connections, there's stuff to do around that. Or how do you work with local organizational structures, things like that. Lots of room to contribute. Or
this is a challenge.
Tell us about things you've done.
And this is a challenge for us even when we assess nominations, because sometimes the work, you know, it's great when we've all got an internet connection and we can write blog posts and upload to YouTube. It's like, well, we can see that work. So being aware of the work we can't see is a big problem. And that's another reason for the nomination process, right? Because, you know, I can click URLs, but unless I'm told about some of the things that happen offline, then we won't know about it. And we've certainly selected Zen Masters in the past who have very little digital presence, but a very active presence within their community. I'm just going to, a couple of comments. So thanks for everybody who's putting comments in the chat. You can do questions and answers as well. So Jeff, I'm guessing that, I don't know if that's Jeff Schaefer, but I've just got Jeff. To create more diversity over time, we could start tracking stats on who is submitting applications and who is nominated. If there are only 100 tall white men that are nominated, then we will only have tall white men on the stage.
And if I can jump in on that, I really want to jump in on that. One of the things I secretly do every time I nominate is I try to nominate people who don't all look like me. That's actually a secret goal of mine. So my stats generally run at least 67% female. And then I nominate a ton of women of color. And I also try to nominate a number of people who do not share my same language. And that's a personal goal. And I talked about that, and I know a couple of people actually sent me messages saying, okay, I nominated this person because of what you said. And so I would challenge you as you submit your nominations, if everybody looks alike, maybe go look for somebody or a couple people who don't.
And this is hard, right?
It's very hard.
This is hard. We recognize we've got more to do on diversity with this program. And it's about our selection process, and it's also about the pipeline. And yeah, I mean, even the biases just within the way we set up the nomination process, we are aware it is not perfect. And hopefully we're getting better each year. Will Strauss says he loves being part of the community, feels like a leader in your area. You are, Will. Thank you very much. But unworthy of the title Zen. What is your best advice for those of us that feel far from Zen but want to closely support the program and continue to develop individually? Do either of you, I've got some thoughts on that. Anybody else? Either of you two?
I'll just do a quick thought. For me, the most important thing there is the continue to develop individually. And I happen to know Will because he's local. And you are part of the community, Will. You're a leader. You co-lead the Boston Tug. You do amazing creative visualizations, and keep doing that.
For me,
You're
I would
doing
say
awesome stuff, and just keep on going with that.
Yeah, and for me, I'd say keep mentoring others as well. I know, particularly Will, you being part of the user group, keep bringing people up, keep bringing people forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, and my response, yeah, well, you are a leader. I think there's many different ways to display mastery and expertise, right? So, and one of the things, what a lot of people do is find their niche, right? You know, you don't have to do everything. This is one of the things, this is a problem we see in the community. People are trying to get involved in every single project and every single thing. So, but you don't have to, because that's a sure way to burn yourself out. So find a niche. I mean, I know it's not for me to tell you what you should aspire to be, so don't take this way, but you know, Zen Mastership is a bit, that has mastery within a core tenet of the program. The Ambassador program is a vehicle for which we recognize and reward the community builders, the people who are really passionate about, you know, enabling others as well. And again, we know that division can sometimes be difficult to see. Sometimes, you know, both programs are equal. We try to make them equal. We know we don't get it right, but we try to. And so, you know, being an ambassador is a great aspiration, we hope, too. And obviously give us feedback if that's not the case. We're trying to get these things right. But yeah, I think that's the other thing I'd add, but based on what the other two said. Right, that's all for questions. So I think we'll go on for a few more minutes, because we wanted to talk about, should you apply, right? That's the question. And then we'll wrap up with, well, what happens if you become a Zen Master, right? What happens next? Because that's actually an important thing. It freaks some people out when they get this recognition. So even Bridget, should one apply?
Definitely apply. It is terrifying, but it's definitely worth it. And then two, it opens doors. Even if you don't get in, Tableau becomes aware of you. They become aware of your niche. They become aware of, oh, hey, you do this thing. And when a developer needs feedback, they may reach out to you. Or, oh, hey, when I need a blog post on this, I may reach out to you. So even if you don't get in, it puts you on the radar. And I feel like that's important.
Right. Thank you. Jonathan?
I think it's also just worth, so if you're in doubt about nominating somebody or even nominating yourself, go ahead and do it. In terms of the application process, all of the existing Zen Masters have to go through that as well. So yes. I've had to do that. Bridget has to do that. And I've found it a worthwhile thing just to sit down and look at my year. And it's kind of a forced way to do that sometimes when I don't necessarily have that. And also think about what it is I want to do for next year. How do I want to contribute and have more of a plan for that way. So regardless of whether or not it ends up in you getting selected as a Zen Master, there's a worthwhile piece of this.
Yeah. That's great. We've got one more question from Zach. This is a really interesting one. I'm actually going to answer this with complete honesty. So the question is, there seems to be a stigma against acknowledging that you want to be a Zen, that it shouldn't be a goal. Is that a feeling that the three of you truly have? There have been discussions on this in social media. So let's go back to when we set this program up. What I wanted as a central tenet is that I wanted to recognize people who are sharing what they do for the benefit of lifting others, because they're passionate and they just care about lifting others. And I've also said on this webinar that, you know, the best reaction I can get is when we send an email to somebody saying you're a Zen Master, and they go, what? Why am I a Zen Master? Right? So that aspect kind of points to it being like, well, you know, if you are really actively saying I want to be a Zen Master, then that makes me think, is your motivation pure, right? Now, that's what we did 8 years ago when we set this program up. That is still important to me, but I recognize that this is a program that is worth aspiring to, right? I recognize that this is a goal that people are driven to get to because it's an amazing achievement. It's a recognition of time that you've put in to become an expert. And so I'm softer on that whole issue than I used to be. You know, I don't mind if you tell me you're aspiring to be a Zen Master anymore, because great, we know it's a successful program. And, you know, if I know you're applying, if I know you're trying to be one, then at least you've got I've now got my eyes on you. So it's a great question, Zach. It's a hard one for me to answer because it had one answer 8 years ago, and it's got an answer that's evolved. Now we're in 2020. Jonathan, Bridget, do you have any other thoughts?
I personally feel like that's a hard one to answer. It is life-changing, and that is, I think, the big thing that perhaps people see is, you know, there are certain things in the community, winning Iron Viz, winning in the ambassadorship, being awarded Zen, that definitely transform your career. So I can understand where that's something to aspire to. I don't know that there's a way to truly achieve it, and that's so, I know when I've read a lot of like motivational books or career guidance books, it's one of those things that's completely out of your control. So, you know, unfortunately, I know it can be a goal, and unfortunately, it can also be one of those that no matter how hard you try, you never get it. And I see it in some ways as like the VMA Vocal Award, where, you know, you would argue Beyonce should have this, and it's like, why doesn't she have this? And it's one of those things that risks creating bitterness. And, you know, again, I know, you know, I've been very, very lucky thus far. And that's kind of my take, is I've been very, very lucky, and I appreciate it. But very easily next year I could not be Zen, and I recognize that as well. And for me, what my stability is, or what my goals that I can control are, I can control what I post on my blog. I can control my goals around my growth. You know, those are things I can control and I can measure, but I can't necessarily measure I will get Zen this year.
Right. Anything else, Jonathan?
I love what you said there. About Bridget, about what you can control and what you can't. The one other piece for me on this is collaboration. Is that where collaboration is really a part of it? If you may have an aspiration to be a Zen master, and if you're totally in it for yourself, you're not going to be a collaborator. And one of the values of the program is collaboration and showing that. So if you're aspiring to do it and you're demonstrating collaboration with others, awesome.
Yeah. I think, thanks for that comment, Zach. I think Jeff Schaefer says another great point. It's like, are you having fun? If you're just doing it as a goal and not really enjoying it, then Jeff's kind of right. You're going to get burned out. And, you know, I want people who are doing this for fun. To
give you an idea, I mean, I have a goal of 24 blog posts a month, which or 24 blog posts a year, which I feel is low. But it's one of these, you know, I want 2 a month, and, you know, I don't always hit it, but that's kind of my rough goal. And I mean, I've been blogging since 2015, and I still have ideas. I still have energy about things.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a great comment from Chris Love, and let me see if I can paraphrase what he says here. It's like, when you're doing something that's community related, ask yourself, am I doing this because I want to be a Zen master, or am I doing this because I want to help this person? If the answer is the first one, then you might not get on the program. If the answer is the second one, then you probably will. Right. Excellent questions, everybody. So our last thing we wanted to talk about is, you know, within 6 weeks, within 4 weeks, there's going to be a bunch of people who get an email and it'll say, congratulations, you're a Zen master.
Actually, it's not. It's going to say you got to apply.
Yeah, actually, well, yeah, okay. So we're going to say you got a nomination, now apply, and then subsequently there might be an email saying you're a Zen master, congratulations. What next? What next, Jonathan? What should we do? What should they do when they get that email?
When you get your Zen Master email?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, keep on doing what you're doing. That you've done. It's one of the things that players, like I follow baseball, and players, when they reach the major leagues, are like, oh my God, I'm finally here, this thing I've aspired to and worked towards for years and everything. In that case, and then the thing that they keep on getting told is, don't be changing your approach. Keep on doing the awesome stuff that you're doing, because it's what you got you there. So So there's whatever that is. Keep on helping other people and being excellent about it is kind of my key. There are things where Tableau, the company, leans on it. Tableau, the company, depends on its users, and where the Zen Masters have kind of shown they're really involved with Tableau, Tableau leans on the Tableau Zen Masters in ways, so you will get asked questions and have opportunities to get involved in something maybe before anybody else. And there is a place of having boundaries around that, because you could get involved in a bunch of Tableau Foundation projects and helping out the devs with new releases and you got to have some boundaries around that, but it doesn't necessarily take more time than the time you're already spending supporting the community.
Yeah. I think you did I think you've linked to the presentation earlier in the chat. You said it great years ago, you know, it'd be great. I'm a Zen Master. Great. I'll just carry on doing what I'm doing. Now, again, this comes back to, well, the program's kind of got a little bit bigger since those days. So yes, you are allowed to celebrate and maybe dance around your office a few times, right?
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I would definitely, you know, for me, it's like I got the email, I was blown away. I had to check and make sure it was real. And then once I knew it was real, then yes, you know, it's like, woohoo, you know. And I would say the other thing is, I mean, yes, keep doing what you're doing, but then now that you've got increased visibility, bring up others behind you. Who gets to be the next one? So especially when you look around the room, who's missing, who else can you bring in? And even if you're not the right person to train them, who is?
Yeah, that's great. And you, Bridget, you also had some opinions on, or some things to say about how, I'm a Zen Master, how many hours a week do I have to dedicate to this thing?
Well, and that's, yeah, and that is the other thing I've heard is, you know, there's this fear where, you know, it itself becomes a full-time job. And, you know, the reality is, you know, I have a family, I've got other commitments. I technically own a business as well as work full-time. And then, so, you know, I've got my goal of 24 posts a month, but I mean, I may only commit. Sorry. Yes, thank you. I'm going to get this right. I blame the cold. I blame the cold.
Second time you said that, Bridget, I think you're...
Lofty goals!
Yeah, like, holy cow!
Really, I mean, I throw in some hours sometimes after the kid is in bed, or, you know, I start up a lot of drafts, I come back to them. And so, you know, I'm not constantly available. There are times I check out completely on Twitter. And then I was, you know, for a while providing hospice care, and so I was really checked out there for a while, but you know, I did make sure to at least pop my head up enough so that people knew I was alive.
Yeah, excellent. That's great. And remember, here's the thing, when again, if you become a Zen Master, we don't oblige you to do anything at all. We hopefully open doors and give you opportunities to consult with the dev team, as Jonathan said, in the foundation, but there's no obligation. And being in the Zen program is what that means. That means you are recognized for the work you did last year, right? If you just want to walk away, or, I mean, hopefully you don't, but you know, that email is what you did last year was worth the recognition. And now, you know, just keep doing the same thing. Don't think, now I've got to do 10 times more. Because if you burn yourself out, that's not great for you or for Tableau or the people you might enable to be Zen Masters or ambassadors in the future. Excellent. Right, we have gone for 45 minutes. I believe we have exhausted all the questions. So, Bridget, Jonathan, just like to say thank you for contributing to this webinar, for all the contributions you've made as Zen Masters. Thank you to everybody who's asked questions and everybody who's watched and listened today. We will make this recording available. And you have 6 days to fill out the form on the blog. Just Google Tableau Zen Masters 2020. You'll get to the blog post. And I wish you all the best of luck with your nominations and future Tableau activities. All right. With that, take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.